households with younger children, there could be and probably is more food waste. So that's why we asked that question about children under 12. Mostly homeowners, 90%. That's a really interesting figure, particularly because if we think about ways of incentivizing compost services, we can think about the customers as also taxpayers, not necessarily renters.
But renters are taxpayers.
Well, sure.
We have to be careful.
Yeah, but if we think about mechanisms that other communities have used to incentivize this kind of service, or this kind of fee-based service, it's useful to know if people are owning their own homes. Also, they have control over the property, so they potentially could be composting on their own. For some reason, they're not. Lots of people are cooking at home. I'm not going to read all the numbers, but this last one is interesting. 62% of our customers are CSA subscribers, so they get a regular farm share of vegetables. It usually means that they're contributing more kitchen scraps because they're trimming vegetables that are pre-cut. Okay, motivations. And by the way, these questions were not mutually exclusive, so we allowed people to choose more than one. So keep that in mind as you hear the numbers. But the most salient data point here is that 74% of our customers want to reduce their household's waste footprint. That was their primary motivation. And then some of the other ones are interesting for different reasons, but I think the one that jumps out at me is the last one. 18% currently compost, but also wanted to do more. They wanted to do more than what they're already doing with the, our current ordinances only permit sort of raw vegetable and fruit trimmings. And so we have 18% of our customers who are motivated by the idea that they can throw spoiled food in there, they can throw meat and bones, and a number of other things. Any questions about some of the other items? I'm going to move quickly because the most interesting piece comes up next. Here's the second data set, which is from the collection vendor, Compost Crusader. And most of the numbers are pretty straightforward. They're just based on the weekly route report that we get from the truck driver. The set-out rate, and later I want to learn how this sort of jives with DPW figures, but the set-out rate is around 3/4. So about 75 households per week are setting their carts out. Collection weight on the average over 1,300 pounds. And that's been consistent. I looked back from June, because I wanted to see if there was a seasonal difference with people putting more yard waste in. Recently, I wondered if the weights were going up, but the average has been remarkably consistent. And that comes out to about 17.4 pounds per household per week.
That's a combination of kitchen waste and yard waste.
Yeah, but what we're finding out is that most people are favoring the kitchen waste. The next 3 bullet points, I just want to explain how I came up with these numbers. The black numbers are actual numbers. The blue numbers are scaled numbers. So a factor of 44 if we multiply the pilot participants by the entire DPW collection route of 1, 2, and 3 family households. So that's where the numbers get kind of interesting. I put these in here. This was from committee feedback. At first I just had the black numbers, and they're not as impressive as they could be. But if we start to imagine multiplying it by 44, they get pretty interesting. But there they are. We're looking at 32,500 pounds diverted so far, and this is through November 16th data. That's the CO2 equivalent of pulling a car and a half off the road just from these 100 households. And then the cost savings is simply a calculation. This is a raw number. It doesn't factor in the cost of the program, but the cost savings just from that reduced landfill burden that Shorewood saved $45 per ton times the number of tons, 15 metric tons that we've pulled out of the trash yield, and that gives us $675. So it's kind of a modest figure. But again, once you multiply it by 44, you get into an interesting number, especially when you consider that the program itself is very cheap. It costs $225 per month for the village to support this program as a subsidy that you agreed on.
Did you run that last bullet point by DPW for?
I did, for accuracy. Yeah, the only criticism that Leanne had was that it's actually $44.68 per ton, but I wanted to keep it kind of simple.
Right.
But the number in the black would not be much different at that rate.
Josh, do you know that number, the 1.4 million, if we scaled it up to 44, how much does that tip our resource recovery?
Okay, well, and I didn't share this because we still need to look at the numbers with Leanne, but Leanne's calculations are that we would need to bring a minimum of like another, I think she said 23 or 2,400 customers into the pilot in order to reach 50%, which is the 50% is the magic number for recovery rate because it allows DPW to think about, okay, well, if we hit 50%, maybe we can start looking at service levels. Does that make sense?
And what was the number you said?
It would be another 2,400 customers.
Okay, okay.
So nearly,
6,000.
yeah, more than half the village. Yeah,
That's a lot.
but it's,
We could probably do
yeah, I think we can do it. And it would be a way to do it. But I think Leanne's comment was that composting isn't a silver bullet in that sense. If we improve recycling rates and add organic recovery, then we're probably going to do even better. Okay, and I would just want to leave you with a few remarks and questions, and then take any questions that you have, and then we'll wrap up. The mid-pilot survey that we're conducting right now is giving us very interesting results. That data I hope to report out on in the spring. Okay, and this is what customers are saying, and they're giving us some interesting granular information about their own experience, but also as we collect it all into one, we see very positive reaction. Milwaukee, I can tell you, I just learned this last week, confirmed, Milwaukee has decided to renew its pilot, which is it's ahead of ours. So they started last November. They just renewed for another year for 500 customers in the Bayview, Griffin West, and East Side neighborhoods. No expansion, but they're going to stick with the 500. They want to study it for another year. So this is an opportunity for the board to consider what Shorewood will do when the pilot concludes at the end of next May of 2018. And again, I hope to come back, pending your invitation, to report out on that customer data. Just a review of our options. We could do what Milwaukee is doing and just renew the pilot for an additional term, whatever we decide that is, with the existing customer base of 100 households. And just a reminder that the cost is $2,700 per year. That's one option. That would be, I think, the minimum recommendation from the Conservation Committee. Other options would be to remove the subsidy, but allow customers to keep their carts, which was the major capital cost of the village, at $55 a cart. But then let the customers pay a market rate, whatever a vendor would charge. So in other words, remove the subsidy. A third option would be to expand the pilot and bring more households in. Tyler has maintained a waiting list of interested customers, and I know that all of you probably have stories of people expressing interest in this program, but we capped it firmly at 100. Other pie in the sky options would be to consider in-housing organics collection. This is not currently feasible. DPW wanted me to stress that to you. And I agree, but I don't want to remove it from the conversation because, especially as we solve other problems with waste management in the village, I think this study provides some data to show that it at least should be part of the conversation. And then finally, something that we've talked about a lot in previous meetings, we can think of creative ways to incentivize trash reduction, incentivize materials and and resource recovery behaviors through various incentives. Questions?
Might be more for Tyler, but you might know it too. The wait list. Did the wait list kind of populate early and die down? Or is it, what's the story and what is the wait list?
We added about 10 people to the waiting list when we did our initial recruitment. And then we haven't done any communication since we got the 100 people, and I've got an additional 10 people
Okay.
added because they see the bins and they ask their neighbors
Sure.
about them. So we've been steadily adding people every few weeks because of that
So
factor.
your wait list is about 20 right now?
It's about 20,
Okay.
yeah.
Thank you.
But I think Tyler's first sentence was very important, and the Conservation Committee could play a role here,
Oh, sure.
promoting some of this data, maybe through the manager's memo, or just through word of mouth and other venues, so that people get excited about this. I think there was an initial buzz and a couple of articles, Shorewood Today and North Shore Now was the other one. We had a couple of interesting articles but we can do more, I think, once we know what we're
To
doing.
communicate.
Yeah, right, yeah, so once we have a sentiment of,
Now you can have quotes from satisfied users and that kind of
yeah,
stuff. too.
we have testimonials, we have lots of comments, and we have numbers, which,
Right?
It's
yeah.
Yeah, there was an article in the Biz Times last week just on compost crusaders and how these two pilot projects are really helping them
Yeah,
start building this framework, buying another truck.
yeah,
It's a small operation,
Yeah.
they've done some
It-
cloud
yeah.
funding and I mean,
Job
so
creation.
we're really
Yeah.
helping create the
Yes.
initial goal, so it's an investment
it definitely is.
regionally to get this thing going.
And I've always said that this should be this should be a boasting point for Shorewood as a small community. It's great that Milwaukee's doing it.
Yeah.
And I want to keep in step with Milwaukee, not fall behind, but, I'm already in conversation with some interested people in Whitefish Bay who want to get something going there. These things spread that way.
It's interesting that the areas in Milwaukee are the three neighborhoods that are most like Shorewood too.
Right, demographically and other ways. Yeah. Any other questions?
Well, it's not really a question, it's more a couple of comments, but thank you, Conservation Committee, for doing this. I know that when we got the Conservation Committee reinstated in, what was it, 2007 or 8, this was always one of our goals, and we had spoken with DPW, and
Right.
the same thing, the current facilities and machinery that they have
Right.
to support this. And I was on the waiting, or I actually had a spot, but I gave it up early because I compost in.
That's right, yeah.
And I'm not across from Atwater School, so there's also the
Yeah,
composting options,
yeah.
so thanks to you.
More is
So-
better.
Yeah, and I really love it, and I like a lot of the suggestions you had for not only maintaining the program, and this is actually more for the board, but looking at some of the creative, maybe even price points of entry as if we were to expand the program, perhaps, slightly raising some of the initial, it's $100 a month, or a year, what is the fee?
The charge to the customer is $12.75 per month.
Per month, okay.
Yeah, but that's
So
that's
$150 a
So it's like
year.
$150 a year.
Yeah.
that's a sub that yeah
And
with the
subsidized
subsidy.
by about
Yeah.
$27 per household by the village. right?
Mhm.
Isn't it $1? Or is it more?
It's $225 per household per month. So $225 per month for the whole program.
Right.
It's $2,700.
Yeah, but per household.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
So
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, $2,700 per household, sure.
okay. So I mean, it's just an interest in since you, so a lot of good information. I
Yeah.
appreciate all of the metrics and everything else.
And I suppose if we were to scale up, expand the program, it's possible we could negotiate a lower rate, because I think with greater route density, the costs to the vendor go down, and so there might be some negotiation.
And there could possibly maybe be a potential for us to collaborate with Whitefish Bay on this in some regards. I don't know. I mean, I'm not sure what the
I'm open to whatever.
municipality,
Yeah.
but perhaps the Whitefish Bay people would pay 100% of their costs, but still get in on our program because anyway.
Yeah, and I know for the vendor, it's all about route density.
Okay,
So I think she was interested in Shorewood because Shorewood is already dense, and it's actually adjacent to two of the neighborhoods she's already serving. So it was an easy sell, but I think as we move up north, you know, our position may be less favorable, but that's up to what, but I'm open to whatever.
Creative
is decided.
reductions.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
You had something?
Oh, it's okay.
Yeah,
No, it's fine.
okay.
Thank you very much.
All right.
Thank you.
Sorry to take a little more of your time.
When is your next meeting, I'm sorry?
This Thursday,
Thursday.
7 o'clock.
I might be there.
Okay.
Okay,
Thanks for your time.
thank you. All right, so this takes us to next item on the agenda. Strategic initiatives, trustee Pimenta.
Yeah, this is just asking the board to adopt a resolution recognizing December 10th as International Human Rights Day, which is actually recognized by the United Nations